In November 2014, Rolling Stone published a bombshell article titled "A Rape on Campus," detailing the gang rape of a University of Virginia student known only as Jackie at a fraternity house. It was horrifying, viral, and completely false. Fast forward a decade. In Florida, a dramatic legal case against three prominent brothers, Orrin and Tal Alexander, who built high-flying careers in luxury real estate, and Alon Alexander, who worked in the family's security business, alongside their associate, Ohad Fisherman, captured national attention. They were accused of rape, trafficking, and more. But just like in Charlottesville, the public consumed the allegations long before bothering to ask, what's actually true? The parallels between these two high-profile sagas are uncomfortable and undeniable. In both cases, the media pounced. Institutions panicked. Reputations were destroyed. And when the facts began to unravel, the damage had already been done. Let's begin with UVA. The Rolling Stone article wasn't just wrong. It was fiction. Jackie's story was never corroborated. Basic steps like interviewing the alleged attackers or checking party records were ignored by the reporter. By the time the article was retracted, Rolling Stone had paid millions in legal settlements. A Columbia University review labeled the piece a, quote, journalistic failure that was avoidable. The fraternity, at the heart of the story, had its house vandalized, its members harassed, and its name forever tied to a crime that never occurred. Now consider the Florida case. In 2024, state prosecutors charged the Alexander brothers and Ohad Fisherman with heinous crimes. The accusations made headlines around the world, aided by a breathless media eager to paint the accused as predators. But over time, major holes began to emerge. Among the most shocking developments, the accuser herself recently testified under oath that she was not pinned down during the alleged incident, a direct contradiction of what was listed in the original arrest warrant. That claim had been a central component of the state's narrative. This isn't a minor detail. It's a foundational allegation that helped justify the high-profile arrests. Even more troubling, the state appears to have lost or withheld key evidence from the defense, including early witness statements and potentially exculpatory digital data. That should concern everyone, regardless of where they stand on the broader case. And yet, despite these developments, the reputational damage is already severe. Media outlets like The Real Deal ran dozens of sensationalized stories, treating the allegations as settled fact. To date, none of these publications have issued corrections or retractions. The presumption of innocence wasn't just ignored, it was trampled. Let's be honest, the Alexander brothers and Ohad Fisherman might not be the most sympathetic figures. Some may find their personalities abrasive, their lifestyles excessive, or their business practices distasteful. They might be jerks. They might be people you'd rather not associate with. But being disliked or arrogant is not a crime, and it's a far cry from rape, trafficking, and the rest of the horrifying accusations splashed across headlines. Disdain for someone's character is not a license to destroy their life based on shaky or unproven allegations. Just as UVA's fraternity was socially lynched before the truth came out, Fisherman and the Alexanders have been publicly convicted with no trial, no verdict, and growing evidence of prosecutorial failure. This isn't to say the cases are identical. The UVA story was fabricated in full. The Florida case is ongoing, and no final judgment has been made. But the media pattern is the same: a rush to believe the most salacious version of events, to amplify the loudest accusers, and to marginalize skepticism as victim blaming or worse. What makes the Florida case even more alarming is that the federal government has filed separate charges against the Alexanders. Instead of focusing solely on their defense in that arena, they've had to divert massive time and resources to a state case that increasingly appears to have been built on shaky ground. That's not justice. That's punishment by process. So where's the accountability? At UVA, the journalist was discredited, lawsuits were won, apologies were issued. But even then, the cultural impact remained. People still cite the case as symbolic of broader issues, as though facts are irrelevant when the narrative feels right. And that's what's the danger. when due process is treated as optional, when truth becomes a footnote. Everyone loses. Real victims of sexual violence are less likely to be believed when false or dubious claims are given uncritical platforms. Innocent people have their lives ruined. Public trust erodes. This isn't a partisan issue, it's a moral one. The same institutions that demand nuance and evidence in other legal matters must be willing to apply the same standards here. It is simply not enough to say, well, even if this case falls apart, it still highlights a broader problem. No, we do not get to destroy lives in service of an abstraction. Awad Fisherman and the Alexander brothers deserve a fair hearing, not a mob. And if the Florida case collapses entirely, every journalist, outlet, and public figure who rushed to smear them should apologize publicly. Because if we learned anything from a rape on campus, it's this. Sometimes the biggest scandal isn't what happened, it's what we let ourselves believe without proof.